I'm Alyssa, I'm a dietitian, and today we're going to talk all things dietary fat. There have been a lot of confusing messages around fat these last few years, or even last couple decades. So we'll go over, is fat good or bad? How much should I eat? Are there certain foods I should be eating more of or less of? And answer all those questions. First, the important thing is to understand in nutrition, there's very rarely a simple good or bad. It's much more complicated than that, and context matters. With fats, we've seen the extremes. So in the 1980s, low-fat diets were very popular, and then these days, the ketogenic diet, which is a very high-fat diet, is popular. And spoiler, in nutrition, the answer usually lies in the middle. So simply, what are dietary fats? Fats are one of the three macronutrients. We have fats, protein, and carbohydrates. They are nutrients that provide us calories or energy, and we need them in large amounts relative to our micronutrients like vitamins and minerals. Fat is needed for just normal bodily functions. One of the kind of most obvious reasons is for energy storage. So we are able to store excess energy as body fat, and then we can dip in and use that body fat as energy when food isn't readily available. So this was exactly why our ancestors were able to survive, and we're here today. They didn't have food readily available like we do. So when they went through times of famine, their bodies used the fat stores, their adipose tissue, as energy instead of food. So body fat is a good thing. It's necessary. For females, just to have normal bodily functions, you need a minimum of 10 to 14% body fat. Males require a little bit less fat, so maybe like 3 to 5% of their weight should be fat. So body fat is necessary. It's a good thing. But just like any other good thing, too much can be harmful and turn into a bad thing as well. Body fat doesn't just act as an energy reserve either. It helps protect the internal organs, and it gives us insulation, so we're able to stay warmer. And there are two specific types of fat that are considered essential nutrients: omega-3 fatty acids and omega-6 fatty acids. What it means to be an essential nutrient is that we have to get it from food because our bodies can't make it, and we need it for normal bodily functions. We'll talk about the specifics of the omega-3 and omega-6 a little bit later in the video. Fat in your diet is needed for your body to absorb your fat-soluble vitamins, so A, D, E, and K. And these vitamins are needed for the health of all of your major organ systems, like bone, cardiovascular, and immune system. Because these are fat-soluble vitamins, we can also store them in our body fat. So in case we run through those times of famine and we don't get vitamin D for a long time, we can dip into the stores of vitamin D in our fat tissue. Fat is also needed for the structure of our cell membranes, and that helps control what goes in and out of the cell, which is very important for normal bodily function. Fat is also needed for normal brain development in the utero and then a growing brain in a child. The brain is made up of about 60% fat, and the majority of that fat is the omega-3 DHA, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Fat can also play a role in mental health, like depression. It plays a role in blood clotting and wound healing, inflammation control, and the making and control of our hormones. So how much should you eat? Fat should encompass about 20 to 35% of your total calories each day. So if someone was eating like a 2,000 calorie diet, you would need about 44 to 78 grams per day. And that amount's going to change a bit depending on your specific situation and if you have medical conditions. There's some fear if you eat too much fat or too much of the wrong types of fats, that could lead to cardiovascular disease, which is true, but the inverse is also true. So interestingly, if you eat too little fat, you can also increase your risk of cardiovascular disease. Where does fat come from in your diet? To answer that, we have to go over the four main types of fat. So we have unsaturated fat, polyunsaturated fat, monounsaturated fat, and trans fats.